just testing the music feature out for this Restream platform. We want to thank Restream for making these podcasts happen. This Restream platform that we found is just an amazing find. Now, how's it going, everybody? Well, welcome to the ninth episode. We're almost at our 10th episode of What's in Your Earbuds. I'm your host, Aum Gandhi. We're going to be without Joe Hardin today, and I'm going to explain why really shortly. But before we do, I have a little bit housekeeping. We had two really great Fiery Embers episodes today. Shout out to Adam Barker this morning. Shout out to Victor Lobato, who has written a story on our website. And those were two amazing shows. Check out our Fiery Embers. We have shows that pop up at a bunch of different times. They're 20 to 25 minutes long. They have almost nothing to do with endurance sports and have everything to do with just having fun. There's a show for everybody on our Everyday Athlete podcast network. We have a bunch of amazing creators like my co-host Joe Hardin, like Craig Lewis from the UK, like Laurie Hawk, who does the Caffeinated Coaching Show. We have a bunch of amazing shows coming up in the future. And there's something for everybody, whether it is short form content or long form content. So don't forget to like, rate, subscribe, and leave a comment and participate in our shows. And even if you can't make our live shows, know that they will be available on YouTube a few days following. And also on our Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. That's what it's called, the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network, wherever you find your podcast. So thank you so much for joining us for this episode of What's in Your Earbuds. This will kind of be a free-flowing episode, but before we get into it, I want to congratulate Joe Hardin. If I'm looking over here at my left side, or my right side, I should say, it's mirrored out. I am looking at some notes that I took because we are congratulating Joe Hardin today, who was just named to the board of directors for the Indiana Trail Running Association. It's an incredible feat. I've known Joe since we first told his story on our website. It was like January of last year. He was the cover athlete of our first issue of the year, actually. And it's amazing how much of a part of our community Joe Hardin has become. He is the amazing host of Beyond the Finish Line. He is also the co-host of What's in Your Earbuds. He has been on a few of our other shows. He's also an amazing writer for us. And now he is a board director for the Indiana Trail Running Association. So really, really happy for Joe, and just wanted to take the time to congratulate him before we jump into the show. He will be back for the next episode. He is a busy man now, but you can count on him being back for the next episode. He loves this show and he pours his heart and soul out into it. So now, there are a couple of topics I want to dive into. Before we talk about what's been in my earbuds recently, I want to talk a little bit about sports music. Sports music. So recently, the Dodgers just won the World Series. That was baseball. But recently, the NFL season started back in August, and the NBA season started back. Oh, it's only been a couple weeks since that started. Why am I bringing this up, you ask? The reason I am bringing this up is because this is a really good time for sports. And I think that one of the most underrated genres of music is arena music and sports music. Uh, if you have ever been to a ball game, there is something about the "let's go" whatever your team is chants that really gets you going. For the Lakers, they have for the longest time had the organ playing, and you kind of have like the dun da 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 da, you know. And I don't know, and somebody can chime in on this. I don't know if it is the simplicity of the music itself, it is the instrumentation itself, or if it's the fact the crowd gets into it. I think it's a combination of all three, but I had to give a shout out to sports music, not to mention the sports music in halftime shows as well. I think that's a big part of showing why music is such a huge part of our culture, even in like other aspects and other areas of life. The fact that it makes sports more fun and more of a family outing than somebody who's just like, say, a nerd and a connoisseur of the game. And the fact that it carries over into almost every other thing you can think of. If you remember a couple episodes ago, we had Elliot Matson on the show, and we talked about, for example, like music in movies and how soundtracks can make horror movies significant. And let me tell you that there are a lot of action scenes and a lot of scenes in movies that would not be the same without the music. I don't know that movies like Indiana Jones or Jurassic Park or any of those Rocky, any of those movies that came out in the 80s, 90s, and 70s would be the same without music. So, music is a key part of everything we do, and it does go beyond the earbuds. That was just a little topic on my mind, and it was just something I definitely wanted to talk about a little bit with you guys. Now, you know that if you have any questions or if you have any comments, you can leave them in the comments, whether that's YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. We will see all the comments, whether that's Instagram. So feel free to chime in if there's anything you want to talk about or if there's anything you want me to shout out. Um, Now, last week, Joe and I talked about motivational music. And that was a topic that really stuck around with me for not only the last week, but uh, just like I was really just thinking about like all the different kinds of motivational music and some of the stuff that we heard from you, the fans, which um, there are some good comments that we got from you guys on what is some really good motivational music. If I'm looking down the screen, it's because I'm going back to the last episode of What's in Your Earbuds. Uh, we got one from Roel Gonzalez, who was on our sober chat, who was on our sobriety roundtable chat leading up to the Kenneth Anderlich 1800-mile run. He was one of the crew for Kenneth, and he said Money for Nothing is the motivational song that he likes to listen to. And I really like that role. That's a really good choice. Also, that reminds me, shout out to Kenneth Anderlich for completing his 1800-mile run from Washington, D.C. all the way to Austin. That was an incredible feat, and he was doing it for an incredible cause, Haven for Hope. And I encourage everybody to check out Ken's channel and Run Ken Run USA. So, yeah, that was one of the entries we got. Obviously, like Joe and I talk extensively about ours. I think that Rocky 4 is a significant one in my life. And I don't know, it's just got a really popping soundtrack, you know? Like, there's not a single song in there that's not a banger for different parts of like trail running. Like, there was a trail run I was doing leading up to my last race, and it was like kind of a rough day, and I thought about like all the challenges I had to go through uh, throughout the entire process. And Man Against the World is a song that came up. First off, really like Survivor as a band. Most people think about Eye of the Tiger, but Man Against the World is a song that really goes under the radar, and it is a song that speaks to me as an underdog. Yeah, that kind of reminds me of a song from another movie directed by the director of the first Rocky, Karate Kid. Uh, I think it was called, God, is this song in the montage where uh, Daniel LaRusso is fighting through all the rounds of karate at the end. You're the best. Yeah, the song is called You're the Best. Let me see who it's by. This is the beauty of running a podcast like this, is you can just go and search songs the way you want. It's by Joe Esposito. It's called You're the Best. Now going back to the Rocky 4 soundtrack, there's obviously There's No Easy Way Out is another good song from that one. So shout out to that song. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see more motivational song entries from you guys. And I would like to take it a step further and ask you all, and I will ask this in the stories tomorrow. what is a underdog song that you really like? I think at some points in our lives, we've all felt like we were up against insurmountable odds, which is why movies like Rocky, Karate Kid, movies where the protagonist is very likable and is overcoming a challenge that you don't think they can overcome, really speak to us because I think that there's some shade of underdog in all of us. So I want to ask all of you, what is a underdog song that you really like? And I will start by saying that You're the Best is mine. Going the Distance is obviously an easy choice, but I will say that Man Against the World is really one that has spoken to me very recently. So that'll be my underdog song choice. Now, that leads me to the last topic of this very short update episode, and that is what has been in my earbuds recently. Now, ever since my race at Moab, I've definitely been listening to a combination of songs where I'm sort of feeling bad for myself, but also songs that are upbeat and peppy. And I think that there's been a mix of soundtracks. I've been definitely exploring some new things because, I do have my soundtrack that I've been listening to for the entire last race season, but I think that I've expended that soundtrack as far as it can go right now, and some of those songs tie into the season. So I've been exploring new songs that I want to add to my playlist, and I think that similarly to how you have new goal races for the next season, I think that adding songs is very exciting for the new race season too, and not just songs like audiobooks, podcasts, and I'll go through all three of them here right now. But songs wise, like if I pull up my phone right now, obviously the one we talked about last time was The Who. Wolf Totem is a song that has really stuck to me recently. I think The Who is a very underrated artist. They're a Mongolian band. They play Mongolian traditional instruments. And I've listened to their other song, which is called Juve Juve You, which is definitely a song that I'm probably butchering the name of. Wolf Totem also has a remix with Papa Roach in it and Jacob Shaddix in it. And then there's a song called Black Thunder with Serge Tankian from System of a Down, which is just incredible. Now, if you go on Spotify, you will see that these are the top three of the top five songs that are from The Who. So I'm really just scratching the surface here, and I'm excited to dig deeper into some of their other music. But The Who is a big one. Now, as I look down and I scroll down my list, I've definitely added the soundtrack from How to Train Your Dragon. That was one I added before my last race of the season. It's just got a really epic soundtrack, and there's an artist named Samuel Kim who makes epic versions of them of songs on Spotify, like Duel of the Fates from Star Wars, How to Train Your Dragon, the Agni Kai theme from Avatar, and just really a big fan of that. I want to give a shout out to um, m- uh, my fellow Indian artist, Hanuman Kind. Shout out to Hanuman. Hanuman is a Hindu deity for those of you guys that don't know, but his song "Big Dogs" has gotten so popular, which is so cool to see that it's transcended not only Indian hip hop and Indian music, but it's transcended into like world music, and that is really cool to see any Indian artist break the charts like that, especially a hip hop artist, to show that there's really a movement down there of some really amazing artists. Um, Other than that, I've gone back to some of my classics, but now going into podcasts, I've definitely been listening to a lot of the Phase One podcast by my buddy John Fisher. I've been listening to Happy Endings Trail Crew podcast. They've had some good guests on there. Shout out to my friends Jess and Sam. Um, I have also been continuing my audiobook of The Book of Joy. The Book of Joy is a journalist a journalist's writing of a conversation and interviews that he had sitting in the same room as Archbishop Tutu and the Dalai Lama. Archbishop Tutu, as you know, is no longer with us, but the Dalai Lama is still alive. So this book was written back in the 2010s. It's the audiobook interpretation of it is amazing. I would highly recommend you check it out if you're looking for a good, relaxing audiobook to zone out into. It's all about happiness and finding purpose in life, and it explores many topics. It doesn't shy away from the negative, but it definitely uh, has an optimistic or pragmatically optimistic approach to it. So um, I think that it's something that you will definitely like. So I would highly recommend checking it out. And that's what's been in my earbuds recently. Now, now in the next episode, our 10th episode, we are actually going to have a guest for that one. That show will be on November 18th. It is November 4th today of this recording. There was a bit of a 1 week gap when Joe and I did the Moab 240 and the Indiana Trail 100, both unsuccessful but learning endeavors for us. And so we are now back to our regularly bi-weekly programming. So next episode will be at 3:30 Pacific time, 6:30 Eastern time on November 18th, and we will have a guest from that one. We don't know who it is yet. I think it might be a guest from the Midwest, just to rhyme accidentally. But before we let you guys go, I'm going to do a little bit housekeeping again. Don't forget to tune into our fireside chat tomorrow with Josh Fernandez. They are the founder of they are the executive director of Queer Run, I should say. Excuse me. Josh was part of the last magazine of ours from September 15th, and they told their amazing story, and I would highly recommend checking that out. Josh will be more involved with Run Try Bike in the future, and they have an amazing story, and we're excited to dive into it on tomorrow's fireside chat during our regularly scheduled time of 4:45 to 6. The show airs at 5 Pacific time, 8 Eastern time, and is available on YouTube and everywhere you find your podcast as well. On Thursday, we will have another episode with Joe Hardin of Beyond the Finish Line, so be sure to check that out. And if you haven't checked it out already, the podcast version of Food Fight Friday at the Aid Station with Adam and Jason just dropped this morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So it's available on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and anywhere you find your podcast under the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. If you're looking for just 10, 15 minutes of fun and shenanigans, would highly recommend checking that one out. Again, there's something for everybody on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. So we just want to thank you guys. We've seen the growth of the podcast network and our viewership, and we want to thank everybody for the love and supporting our creators. Don't forget to like, rate, subscribe, and review. And thank you so much for joining me for this short and quick edition of What's in Your Earbuds. Hope you have a great, great day.